Hi everyone. I just want to pick it up where we left off in the first video about trying to infer the causal effect on starting salary of being an economics major. So as a reminder, Y1I is what your salary would be if you chose to major in economics, and Y0I is what it would be if you chose not to major in economics. And if somehow you could observe both of those, the difference between those would be the causal effect, right? So if we could have you go ahead and major in economics, find out your starting salary, and then go back in time, have you not major in economics, then we can observe your average starting salary. And the difference between those two would be the causal effect on your starting salary of being an economics major. And if this difference were positive, it would say, hey, being an economics major raised your salary. And if this effect were negative, it would mean being an economics major reduced your salary. All right. Unfortunately, you can't do that. You can't go back in time and change things just by that one little thing and having you major in something other than economics. So we can't observe the causal effect. But we can observe average differences. And so we can say something about average causal effects. So let me go ahead and erase this. And there'll be a little bit more notation here. And so we're going to be working with expected values here. And expected value of Y1I, given the fact that you majored in economics, minus the expected value of, oops, that's not Y1I, let me erase all that. Let me start over. We can take a look at our sample of people for which we have starting salaries on, and we can look at the expected value of the starting salary for people who majored in economics. And in case you've forgotten, the expected value is just the average. So this term right here is the average salary of those people who majored in economics. And we can look at the expected value of starting salaries for those people who did not major in economics. In other words, we can look at the average wage of those people, or average starting salary of those who majored in economics, subtract off the average starting salary of those people who did not major in economics, and that's the observed differences in average salaries. Now, you might be tempted to say, hey, that observed difference is the causal effect on majoring in economics, or causal effect of majoring in economics on your starting salary. As it turns out, you can't do that, because there's going to be something that we call selection bias. And to see the selection bias, I'm going to break this up a little bit more. Okay, so I'm going to say, what's the expected value of your starting salary if you majored in economics for those people who actually did major in economics? Okay, in other words, that's the observed starting salary of those people who majored in economics. And then I'm going to say, hypothetically, I'm going to subtract off the expected value of the starting salary if for the people who majored in economics, assuming they didn't major in economics. This term here is observed. This term here is not observed. Okay? Because observing this term here would require you to take all those people who majored in economics, go back in time, have them not major in economics, and take a look at their starting salary. Okay? We're not done yet. Okay? So this difference here, if we could observe it, this difference is the average causal effect. And by that I mean the average causal effect of majoring in economics. Now keep in mind we can't observe it. But if we could take all those people, I mean we do observe this term here, so we can observe the starting salaries of all those people who majored in economics. And if we could go back in time and have all those people major in something else, then we could observe their starting salary, and the difference between those two would be the average causal effect of majoring in economics. Okay? But we can't observe that. Okay? And let me erase all this here to make it a little bit cleaner. And so from this, I'm just going to subtract off some, or no, I'm going to add something. Plus, here's the expected, or the average starting salary for those people who majored in, economics, if they didn't major in economics. So again, I've added this, or I've subtracted off this unobservable thing right here, and then I've added back the same unobservable thing right here. So if you subtract something and add it right back, you really haven't changed anything to the value of the equation, minus the expected value of starting salary for those people who didn't major in economics. Okay? So this term here, so all I did is I broke up what was on the left-hand side of the equation. I subtracted this term and added it right back. So I haven't really changed anything. So there's no fancy, I'm not really doing anything with the arithmetic here. I'm just breaking it out into something that's a little bit more convenient. So this first term here, as we had it before, is the average causal effect. This term here is the selection bias. Now if you look at that and you ask yourself, okay, now why is that selection bias? Okay, because this tells you this difference right here, it's not observable, but if it were observable, it would tell you the difference in starting salaries of those people who didn't major in economics, right, and the difference between their starting salaries and those people who did major in economics, what their starting salaries would have been had they not majored in economics. Okay, so I think I'll stop it here since I've broken this up. I'm going to do some erasing so things will be a little bit clearer. Alright, clean that up a little bit, clean this up. And if you take a look at what I've written here, it's actually not that bad in terms of being complicated. Up here, right, this is an observable difference, right? It's the difference in starting salaries between those people who don't major in economics and those people who do major in economics, right? And all I'm saying is that observable difference can be broken up into the average causal effect here and the selection bias term here. And I think this is a good place to stop, so then I'll talk a little bit more about the selection bias in the next video, and then how random assignment can solve the selection bias.